The drama between Jim Jones and Cameron has just hit a boiling point. Fans are in shock as the two hip-hop legends, once inseparable, are now at odds, and it all started with a leaked video that no one saw coming. But here's the twist. Cameron is being blamed for Chrissy Lampkin's private moments being exposed to the world, and Jim Jones is furious. Emotions ran high as Jim blasted his longtime friend, accusing him of betrayal, and the world watched in disbelief. Was this the breaking point for the once solid bond between the Dipset duo? What could have driven Jim to go off like this? You won't believe what's really behind the heated words, the accusations, and the shocking fallout. In the latest chapter of this ongoing saga, it seems like nothing will ever be the same. The rift between Jim and Cameron could be the end of an era. And as the drama unfolds, secrets are being exposed, loyalties are being tested, and everyone involved is asking, can these two ever rebuild their friendship? Or is this the final blow? Stick around as we dive deep into the explosive details that have left fans on the edge of their seats, because what happens next might just change everything. The feud between Jim Jones and Cameron didn't happen overnight. No, this was the culmination of years of complex history, friendship, rivalry, and secrets. The two men who helped define the sound of New York hip-hop with their iconic group, Dipset, had always been a force to be reckoned with. They shared triumphs, challenges, and even a few public spats along the way. But through it all, they managed to keep their bond intact. Until now. It all began with a seemingly innocent video leak. But what the public didn't know was that the leak would ignite a series of explosive events that no one saw coming. The video in question featured Chrissy Lampkin, Jim Jones' longtime partner, in a private moment that was never meant to be shared. For Chrissy, it wasn't just a breach of privacy, it was a violation of trust, a moment that was supposed to remain behind closed doors. And when the video hit the internet, it set off a chain reaction that would shake the foundation of Jim's personal life and his friendships. Jim, who was already protective of Chrissy, went ballistic. The video was like a trigger, and once it was out there, it seemed like the floodgates were open. What followed was a series of emotional outbursts and accusations that had fans on the edge of their seats. But what no one knew was the person Jim was blaming, and the person who had a lot to answer for, was none other than his longtime friend, Cameron. To understand why Jim was so furious, you need to look at the relationship between these two men. Jim and Cameron had been like brothers for years. They grew up together in Harlem, both from tough neighborhoods, both with a shared vision of success in the rap game. They built Dipset into one of the most influential movements in hip-hop history, their chemistry undeniable. Fans adored them. They were like family, a bond that seemed unbreakable. But in the blink of an eye, all of that changed. When the video leaked, all signs pointed to someone close to Chrissy. The leak had to come from someone within their circle, someone who knew too much. And for Jim, there was one person who immediately raised suspicion: Cameron. Cameron had always been the one who stirred the pot, made the headlines, and kept things interesting. But this was a betrayal that Jim couldn't ignore. In an emotional outburst on social media, Jim didn't mince words. "You know how we roll, Cam. But this is different," Jim said in a now infamous Instagram post, addressing his longtime friend directly. "I'm not one to point fingers, but it's clear someone from the inside wanted to hurt me and Chrissy. And the only person who could have known that much about us is you." Fans were stunned. The friendship that had seemed so unbreakable was now on the verge of collapse, and the world was watching every move. For a while, the accusations remained just that: accusations. Cameron remained silent, his usually outspoken nature replaced with an eerie calm. Fans began to speculate: was Cameron guilty? Or was Jim just reacting out of raw emotion and pain? The silence from Cameron only fueled the fire. What was he hiding? Was there more to this than anyone knew? The tension continued to build. Jim Jones wasn't the type to back down, and he wasn't the type to keep quiet when his family was involved. So, when Cameron's silence lingered, Jim took it as a confirmation. Cameron had something to do with the leak. At first, there was no direct proof linking Cameron to the leak, but in Jim's mind, the silence was deafening. Cameron's refusal to address the issue head-on only solidified Jim's belief that his friend had betrayed him in the worst way possible. Jim started reaching out to people in their inner circle, trying to gather information, trying to piece together how the video had made its way to the public. But the more he dug, the more it seemed like there were too many unanswered questions. Who could be trusted? Who was really loyal? And how had things gone so wrong? During this time, Jim's frustration boiled over. He began taking aim at Cameron in interviews, dropping subtle but pointed jabs about the situation. "If you were really my man, you'd stand up and say something," Jim said in one interview, his voice thick with frustration. "If you had nothing to do with this, you wouldn't let me sit here wondering. You'd clear your name, show some loyalty. But he ain't done that. Not a word. That speaks volumes." And then, in a shocking twist, things took an even darker turn. Jim's public accusations escalated, and the gloves came off. He didn't just blame Cameron anymore, he started questioning his character, his loyalty, and their entire history together. "I gave this man everything," Jim said in one heated interview. "Everything? And for what? To be betrayed like this? You think you can just sit back and watch my woman get disrespected and not say a word? That's some snake sunt right there." Chrissy Lampkin, ever the strong woman, stood by her. Man, she had always been a fierce protector of Jim, and now she found herself in the center of this drama too. The video was about her, and while it wasn't her fault, she felt the weight of the situation. The leaked footage had stirred up old insecurities, and now her personal life was under attack. She had to live through the public fallout of this scandal, and Jim was right there beside her, angry and protective. But she wasn't going to let him shoulder the burden alone. "Don't let these people tear you down, Jim," Chrissy told him in a private conversation that was later shared on social media. "We've been through worse. If they think they can break us, they've got another thing coming." Fans were glued to every update. Social media exploded as people took sides. Some sided with Jim, feeling his pain and frustration. They knew that, whatever had happened, no one, not even a best friend, should betray someone like that. Others, however, were quick to defend Cameron. They pointed to his history with Jim, how close they were, and questioned whether the accusations were just a reaction out of hurt. Could Jim be jumping to conclusions without all the facts? Or was he right to trust his instincts and assume the worst? But with the relationship between Jim and Cameron hanging by a thread, the question remained, would the two ever reconcile? Could they repair the trust that had been broken? Or was this the end of one of hip-hop's most iconic partnerships? As the days passed, fans continued to watch, waiting for the next chapter in this heated saga. The drama was just beginning to unfold, and no one knew where it would lead. What would happen next? Would Cameron speak up, or would Jim continue to burn bridges in an attempt to defend his woman and his honor? The only thing certain was that the fallout from the Chrissy video leak was far from over, and no one, not even Jim or Cameron, could predict how this explosive feud would end. As the tension between Jim Jones and Cameron continued to escalate, the pressure was mounting from all sides. With each passing day, Jim grew more vocal in his accusations, and his frustration became harder to ignore. His once solid friendship with Cameron seemed to be crumbling before the public's eyes, and fans were left wondering, how could things go so wrong between these two? Jim wasn't the type to back down when his family was involved, and Chrissy's name was on the line. The leak had already caused irreparable damage, and Jim had no intention of letting his best friend, someone he'd trusted with his life, get away with it. His public outbursts were getting more intense, his accusations more pointed. He wasn't just accusing Cameron of being responsible for the leak, he was attacking his character, questioning his loyalty, and tearing apart their years of friendship. But what Jim didn't anticipate was that the more he pushed, the more Cameron remained silent. This silence, this refusal to defend himself, only fueled the fire. Cameron's lack of response began to look like an admission of guilt in the eyes of many, and it wasn't helping his case. It seemed like Jim was alone in this fight. Even if he had Chrissy's unwavering support, the public perception was turning on Cameron, and it was getting uglier by the day. Then, the unexpected happened. Cameron finally broke his silence. But it wasn't in the way anyone expected. Unexpected. In a cryptic Instagram post, Cameron shared a photo of himself with a caption that seemed to take subtle jabs at Jim without mentioning his name directly. It was a typical Cameron move, full of double meanings and coded language. He wrote, "Real. Friends don't turn on each other over a video. If you can't trust your man, who can you trust?" The post left everyone questioning whether Cameron was throwing shade at Jim or simply stating that true friends shouldn't be so quick to point fingers. But the message was clear. Cameron was refusing to play into the drama. He wasn't going to address the situation directly, but he was making it clear he wasn't happy with how things had gone down. The cryptic nature of Cameron's message only deepened the mystery. Fans were left wondering what he meant by it. Was he claiming innocence? Was he suggesting that Jim was overreacting? Or was there something deeper, something more personal, at play? Whatever the answer was, the message was loud and clear. Cameron wasn't taking responsibility for the leak, at least not publicly. This left Jim in an even more difficult position. He had already made it clear that he believed Cameron was behind the video leak. Now, with Cameron refusing to take accountability, Jim felt even more betrayed. It wasn't just the leak anymore, it was the fact that Cameron wasn't even willing to stand up and clear the air. Jim couldn't understand how his friend could be so silent in the face of something so personal. As the drama unfolded, Chrissy Lampkin found herself at the center of the storm, and it was clear that she wasn't going to let Jim fight this battle alone. She took to social media, voicing her frustration with the entire situation. "You can't play games with someone's life," Chrissy posted, her words laced with anger. "People act like this is all a joke, but it's not. This is my man, and this is my life too. I won't let anyone tear us apart over some petty drama." Chrissy's fierce defense of Jim was met with mixed reactions from fans. Some praised her for standing by her man, while others questioned whether she was fueling the fire by getting involved. But one thing was certain: Chrissy wasn't going to sit back and let Jim carry the weight of the accusations alone. The video leak had affected both of them, and she wasn't going to let Cameron or anyone else get away with disrespecting their relationship. Meanwhile, the online world continued to buzz with speculation. Fans were dissecting every social media post, analyzing every word, trying to figure out what was really going on between Jim and Cameron. Some believed that the whole thing was a misunderstanding, while others were convinced that Cameron had betrayed Jim in the worst way possible. The public had chosen their sides, and the fallout from the video leak was causing irreparable damage not just between Jim and Cameron, but also among their fans. But just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, another bombshell dropped. A new video surfaced. This time, it was a clip of Cameron talking about the situation in an old interview. In the video, Cameron had been asked about his friendship with Jim, and his response raised eyebrows. He'd spoken casually about their relationship, saying that it was all business as usual, but when asked about loyalty, Cameron's tone shifted. He made a cryptic remark about how sometimes people don't know who's really got their back until it's too late. The resurfacing of this old interview only added fuel to the fire. Was Cameron hinting that Jim's loyalty was in question, or was he simply speaking about the complexities of their friendship? Either way, it didn't help to calm the situation. Jim, already on edge, took to Instagram to blast Cameron once again. "You think you're clever, huh?" Jim posted, adding, "You want to talk about loyalty? Maybe you should have thought about that before you let that video out in the first place." As the drama continued to unfold, the tension between Jim and Cameron reached a boiling point. Their public feud was no longer just about a leaked video. It was about trust, loyalty, and the destruction of a friendship that had once been invincible. The rift between them seemed unbridgeable, and with every new development, the chances of reconciliation appeared to be slipping further away. Behind the scenes, things weren't much better. Jim's family and close friends were divided over the situation. Some sided with Jim, backing him up in his accusations against Cameron. Others were questioning whether Jim was overreacting, wondering if the situation could have been handled privately instead of airing all their dirty laundry in public. Meanwhile, Chrissy remained Jim's strongest supporter, standing by his side no matter what. But the real question on everyone's mind was, could these two ever fix their broken friendship? The answer seemed more and more elusive with each passing day. Jim was adamant that Cameron had betrayed him, and Cameron refused to come clean. The silence from Cameron was deafening, and it was clear that this was no longer just a simple misunderstanding. The trust was shattered, and no amount of public posts or cryptic messages seemed to fix it. With the situation growing increasingly tense, it seemed like only a matter of time before something even more explosive happened. The public, fans, and insiders were all waiting with bated breath, eager to see who would crack first and whether this feud could ever be repaired, or if this was the end of an era for one of hip-hop's most iconic duos. The stakes were higher than ever. The feud between Jim Jones and Cameron had reached a boiling point, and it seemed like there was no way to stop the inevitable fallout. With every passing day, the accusations and defenses grew more vicious, more personal. Jim's frustration was palpable, and fans were divided. The once unshakable bond between the two men had crumbled, and now it seemed like there was no way back. It wasn't just the video leak anymore, it was about something deeper, a betrayal that ran much further than the public could see. Behind all the anger and accusations, Jim and Cameron had a long and complex history. They had been through so much together, from their rise to fame to their battles in the streets and studios. They had each other's backs through thick and thin, or so Jim thought. But now, with everything on the line, it seemed like Cameron had let him down in the worst possible way. Jim, though angry and hurt, wasn't about to back down. His loyalty to Chrissy was unwavering, and with the world watching, he wasn't going to let Cameron or anyone else disrespect his woman. His posts on social media became more pointed, his words sharper. He was no longer holding back, letting the world know exactly how he felt. I don't care who's watching. I'm saying this for Chrissy, for me, and for the real ones who know what loyalty really means, Jim posted, his tone raw and filled with emotion. You think this is some game? You think this is just about a video? This is about respect. This is about family. And Cameron, you broke that. You crossed the line. Jim's words were like fire, and they spread quickly across social media, sparking heated debates among fans and celebrities alike. Some came to Jim's defense, applauding him for standing by his woman and calling out Cameron. Others, however, questioned whether Jim was letting his emotions get the best of him. Was he overreacting? Shouldn't the situation be handled privately? The comments flooded in, but Jim stood firm. He wasn't backing down. Meanwhile, Cameron's silence became more noticeable than ever. Fans were starting to wonder, was he guilty? Was there something more going on behind the scenes? Why wasn't he defending himself? The longer he stayed quiet, the more people began to doubt him. But just as things seemed to be spiraling out of control, Cameron took a drastic step that no one saw coming. In a shocking turn of events, Cameron posted a video, finally addressing the situation head-on. But it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of giving a direct answer or defending himself, Cameron took a more cryptic approach. He sat in a dimly lit room, his expression serious, as he spoke slowly and deliberately. Look, I ain't here to get into no social media drama with Jim. That's my bro, always has been. But sometimes people gotta understand there's more to this than what meets the eye. You think this is just about a video? Nah. There's layers to this, deeper than any of you know. The video was a game changer. It left people more confused than ever. Cameron's cryptic words only added fuel to the fire. Fans who had been waiting for a straightforward response were left wondering what he meant by layers. Was he admitting guilt? Was he hinting at something bigger going on behind the scenes? And if so, why was he so cryptic about it? Jim, of course, wasn't impressed. He wasted no time responding to the video, his anger bubbling over once again. You want to talk about layers? Jim shot back in a new post. How about you explain to me how your loyalty has so many layers? Because right now, I don't see none of it. Jim was done with the games. His frustration had reached its peak. I'm tired of these riddles and these games, Cam. You put this out there, not me. You made this mess, and now I'm cleaning it up. If you've got something to say it. Don't hide behind these cryptic posts like it's some damn mystery. Damn mystery. The back and forth was escalating quickly, and the world was watching as these two once great friends tore each other apart. The drama was unfolding in real time, with every post, every response, adding more fuel to the fire. Jim wasn't just fighting for his reputation anymore. He was fighting for his family, for Chrissy, and for what he believed was right. The more Cameron remained vague, the more Jim dug his heels in. There would be no resolution unless Cameron came forward and addressed the situation properly. But the deeper they went into this public war, the more it seemed like there was something personal at play. Was this truly about the video leak? Or were there unresolved issues from the past that had been building up for years? Jim's frustration wasn't just about the betrayal. It was about the years of loyalty he'd given, the trust he'd placed in someone he considered a brother, only for it to be shattered in an instant. Chrissy, too, had a lot to say, and her words carried weight. She wasn't just Jim's partner, she was a key player in this drama, and her loyalty to Jim was unshakable. But even she started to question whether the situation could ever be resolved. We've been through a lot, Jim and I, Chrissy said in an emotional post of her own. But this is different. It's one thing to go through tough times together, but it's another when people you call family start tearing you down from the inside. Fans were starting to feel the tension between Chrissy and Cameron as well. While Chrissy remained strong and vocal in her defense of Jim, some fans were beginning to turn on her. Was she too involved? Was she fueling the drama instead of letting Jim and Cameron figure things out privately? But for Chrissy, there was no question about where her loyalty lay. People can say whatever they want. They can point fingers, start rumors, whatever. But I'm standing by my man. And Cameron, he's got to take responsibility for his actions. Chrissy added in another post, at this point, things were spiraling out of control, and there was no telling where it would end. Fans were on edge, anxiously awaiting the next post, the next response, wondering if things could ever return to the way they were. Jim and Cameron's once invincible friendship seemed like a distant memory, and with each new update, the rift between them deepened. Would Cameron ever truly explain his side of the story? Or was this the end of the line for one of hip-hop's most legendary partnerships? And with Chrissy caught in the middle of it all, would the damage to their relationship ever heal? As the story continued to unfold, it became clear that there was more at stake than just a leaked video. There were years of friendship, loyalty, and trust hanging in the balance. And the question on everyone's mind was, how far would these two go before everything was completely destroyed? The tension between Jim Jones and Cameron reached a new level of intensity as they both dug in their heels. Fans, who had watched their friendship blossom on screen and in real life for years, were now left in shock as the bond that once seemed unbreakable was slowly falling apart. The back and forth continued, but instead of cooling things down, it seemed to spark more questions, more accusations, and more controversy with every passing moment. Cameron, still refusing to take full responsibility for the video leak, continued to post cryptic messages, leaving fans to speculate about his true feelings. His latest Instagram post, which showed him in the studio, didn't mention Jim by name but still sent a pointed message. The caption read, "We don't chase clout, we create it." To anyone unfamiliar with the drama, this might have seemed like just another one of Cameron's signature ambiguous posts, but to Jim and those closest to him, it was a direct insult. Jim had made it clear that he wasn't playing games anymore, and Cameron's refusal to address the situation head-on was pushing him to the brink. "I'm done with the mind games," Jim fired back in a post of his own. "If you got something to say it. You want to talk about creating clout? You're the one who put us in this position. Not me, not Chrissy, you." The back and forth between the two was quickly evolving from an issue over a video leak to an all-out public feud. And the stakes were higher than anyone could have imagined. Fans who had followed Jim and Cameron's careers from the beginning were feeling the weight of the situation. On one hand, there were those who sided with Jim. They couldn't believe that Cameron would betray him in such a public way, especially after all they had been through. On the other hand, there were those who felt like Jim was overreacting, that perhaps Cameron's cryptic posts were just part of his persona, and that maybe there was a misunderstanding. Chrissy, still unwavering in her support for Jim, was once again taking to social media to express her thoughts. This time, however, it was not just about defending Jim, but also about taking a stand for herself. She wasn't just Jim's partner, she was a strong woman who had been in the public eye for years and was ready to face the controversy head-on. "They think they know what's going on, but they have no idea," Chrissy wrote in a new post. "People want to act like they're on the outside looking in, but this is my life. Jim didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for this. But we're here now, and I'm not going to sit back and let anyone try to break us apart. We're stronger than that." Her words were a rallying cry for those who supported Jim, and Chrissy's staunch defense of her man only made the feud even more intense. Fans began to rally behind her, sending messages of support and praise. But as much as Chrissy was an anchor for Jim, she too was feeling the emotional weight of the situation. The toll of seeing her man constantly hurt by someone they had once called family was taking its toll, and it was clear that, like Jim, she was done being silent. But as all of this unfolded, there was still one major question lingering. What was the true reason behind the video leak? Was Cameron really behind it? Or was he being set up by someone else? As the mystery deepened, a new theory started to make its rounds online, one that none of the parties involved had anticipated. A viral conspiracy theory began to gain traction, suggesting that the video leak might have been a setup by someone outside Jim and Cameron's circle. The theory posited that a third party, someone who had access to their private lives, could have leaked the video in an attempt to drive a wedge between the two men. Fans began to speculate about the possibility of someone wanting to destroy their friendship from the inside out. This theory started to snowball, and suddenly, it wasn't just about Jim and Cameron anymore. Now, there were new players involved, and the narrative began to shift. The rumor mill went wild, with some fans claiming that a former associate of the two had been responsible for the leak, while others pointed to a business rival who might have seen an opportunity to create drama for their own gain. Even the possibility of an ex-lover who had ties to the group started making its rounds, adding an extra layer of drama to the already tense situation. Jim, however, wasn't buying into the theory. He quickly shut it down with a single post. "I don't need no one to explain this to me. I know who's behind it, and I'm gonna handle it my way." With that one statement, Jim made it clear that he wasn't interested in playing into conspiracy theories or deflecting blame. This was personal. This was about trust, loyalty, and betrayal, and he wasn't going to let anyone else take the fall for what was happening. But even as Jim stood firm in his beliefs, he couldn't ignore the mounting pressure that was slowly creeping in. Cameron's silence had become deafening, and with every cryptic post, the gap between them widened. The possibility of reconciliation seemed more distant than ever. Their once inseparable bond was now hanging by a thread, and there was no telling if it could ever be repaired. With Chrissy's support behind him, Jim was ready to take matters into his own hands. He made it clear that he wasn't going to wait around for Cameron to come clean. Jim's next step was bold. He publicly announced that he would be addressing the issue in an exclusive interview with a major media outlet, where he would tell his side of the story, no holds barred. "I'm tired of all the back and forth. I'm not about to let the world continue to question my loyalty, my love for Chrissy, and my friendship with Cameron. So I'm gonna put it all out there," Jim declared in his Instagram story. "No more cryptic posts, no more games. I'm gonna tell the truth, the whole truth." Fans were buzzing. They couldn't wait to hear Jim's side of the story, to get a deeper look into what had really happened. But the question remained. Would Cameron finally step up and tell his side of the story? Or was this the beginning of the end for one of the most iconic partnerships in hip-hop history? As the anticipation grew, one thing was certain. The feud between Jim Jones and Cameron had become a spectacle, a reality show unfolding in real time. The world was watching, waiting for the next move, wondering if these two could ever reconcile, or if the damage had already been done. The tension was now at its peak, and the drama between Jim Jones and Cameron was captivating the entire hip-hop world. Every social media post, every cryptic message, every word exchanged was dissected by fans, analysts, and the media. But just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get any more intense, a new bombshell dropped, shaking everything to its core. Jim Jones had teased his big interview, promising to tell the full story. The anticipation was building, and everyone was on edge, waiting to hear exactly what he had to say. His followers flooded his comment section with support, eager to hear the truth from the man himself. Would he clear the air? Would he explain everything? Or was this going to be another round of accusations and drama? Then, in an unexpected twist, the night before the interview was set to air, Cameron dropped his own bombshell. It wasn't a cryptic post. It wasn't an ambiguous video. It was a full, unfiltered confession. Cameron posted a long message on Instagram that took everyone by surprise. He came clean about his involvement in the video leak and, for the first time in weeks, took full responsibility for his actions. "Let me start by saying this. I've been wrong, I've been quiet because I didn't know how to fix this. But the truth is, I let my emotions get the best of me. And that's not the man I am. I love Jim like a brother, but I made a mistake, and now we're here. That video? Yeah, that was me. And I'm sorry. I should have never let it get out. But I was hurt too. And I didn't know how to handle it." Cameron's admission sent shockwaves through the hip-hop world. Fans who had been waiting for the two to finally face off were now in disbelief. Was this the resolution everyone had been waiting for, or was this just another layer to an already complicated situation? Jim, for his part, was quick to respond, but it wasn't the angry, fiery response everyone had been expecting. Instead, he seemed almost resigned. His voice, usually filled with passion and fire, was calm. "I'm glad he said something, but let's not forget, this ain't just about a video. This is about trust. This is about brotherhood. We were supposed to be family. And I felt like he chose to tear that apart. Fans were left torn. Some praised Cameron for stepping up and owning his mistakes, while others felt like his apology was too little, too late. The damage had already been done. Jim, despite his calm demeanor, was clearly hurt, and the rift between them seemed even more pronounced than before. But just when it seemed like the situation had hit its lowest point, a shocking twist emerged. That no one saw coming, a new video surfaced, this time not from Jim or Cameron, but from an unlikely source, Chrissy Lampkin. In the video, Chrissy was visibly upset and her words were filled with raw emotion. "Y'all need to stop acting like this is just about Jim or Cam. This is about my life, my relationship, and the damage that's been done to my family. I love Jim, but I can't sit back and watch him be dragged through the mud by someone who was supposed to be his brother." Chrissy's video was a direct message to both Jim and Cameron, calling out their behavior and making it clear that she was no longer going to stay silent. She had always been fiercely protective of Jim, but now the situation was personal. She wasn't just defending her man, but also her own dignity and the future of their relationship. As Chrissy's video went viral, the conversation around the feud began to shift. The drama had never been just about the video leak. It had always been about loyalty, betrayal, and the unspoken expectations that come with being part of each other's lives. The question now was whether Jim and Cameron could truly mend their fractured relationship, or if it was too far gone. The world was watching, captivated by every twist, every turn, every new revelation. Would Jim and Cameron be able to rebuild their bond after this public unraveling, or was the damage irreparable? As the drama continued to unfold in real time, the lines between loyalty, family, and personal ambition became even more blurred. It was clear that this was about more than just two friends falling out. This was about two men who had shared everything. The highs, the lows, the secrets. But now, everything they had built seemed to be crumbling before their eyes. The media had already begun to speculate on the future of the two, with some predicting that they would eventually reconcile, while others believed that the bond was permanently shattered. But there was one thing that everyone could agree on. The drama wasn't over yet. The final chapter of this saga was still unwritten, and no one knew where it would end. Would Jim and Cameron manage to rebuild their trust and patch things up? Or was the friendship, the brotherhood, and the legacy they had created together beyond repair? One thing was certain, the next few weeks would be filled with explosive revelations, shocking confessions, and perhaps the possibility of redemption. As Jim, Cameron, and Chrissy faced the aftermath of their very public dispute, they each had to come to terms with the impact of their actions and with what kind of future they were willing to fight for. And just like that, the Jim Jones and Cameron saga continues to unfold in front of our eyes. The twists, the turns, the betrayals. It's like something straight out of a reality TV show. But what's clear is this: the story isn't over yet. Can Jim and Cameron rebuild their friendship? Or has the damage been done beyond repair? Will Chrissy's powerful statements spark a change? Or is the rift between the two men too deep to mend? The world is watching closely, waiting for the next explosive chapter to drop. What do you think? Is Cameron's apology enough to heal the wounds? Or should Jim walk away for good? Is Chrissy right to stand by her man? Or is this all just part of a bigger game? We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think these two can ever make up? What's your take on Chrissy's role in all of this? Don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on every dramatic update in this story and more. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Stay tuned, and as always, keep it locked for the next chapter in this wild, unpredictable saga.